Well, good day there, friend. In this video, I'm going to discuss what a beautiful sound my neighbor is making right now. So, now in this video, I'm actually going to discuss a question from our Telegram as within chat. And it goes as such. Can we hear more about how to deal with difficult emotions? Some of these questions, when I answer them, it's a little bit almost difficult to pinpoint, because when you're talking to one person, they're at one level of understanding and experience, and the next person's at a different level of understanding and experience. And in order to help somebody in a manner that I would be satisfied with, it's more of an independent approach, and that's what the consults are for, right? But the idea first, look at how we're defining these emotions. How to deal with difficult emotions. There's a saying that says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And when you understand the mind's influence on creation and experience, you see how that's validated. So the very first thing that I would recommend when we are trying to deal with difficult emotions is to recontextualize them. Don't allow the mind to perceive them as difficult. They are emotions. They come with sensations. They might have been there for a while, but don't invest in anything mentally. Do not label or define them in any mental manner when you're trying to work on them. Or even when you're not trying to work on them, unless you're dealing with a therapist and they're really asking you for it. Don't affirm anything difficult. Don't affirm any resistance to it. Don't affirm any negative perception of it. Because when you think a sad thought, you create sadness. When you think a happy thought, you create happiness. When you think something is difficult, you create a difficult situation. If your problems, look at all the problem solvers out there solving problems. You know what I mean? Look at all the victims out there playing victim and doing it very well. 100% of them. So although it seems difficult, this is where we have to learn to practice mental awareness and not let the ego influence our experience and interpretation, because it's the ego that's interpreting and defining these emotions as difficult or uncomfortable or unwanted. And none of that is true unless you listen to the ego's interpretation of it and agree with it. Because you can just as easily have an ego that perceives and interprets those things as difficult and surrender it. And when you surrender the ego, you surrender resistance. So that's a way to approach seemingly, I'm just going to say emotions from now on. I don't want to affirm them. So emotions that we are working to resolve and process and reintegrate. We have to surrender any limited labels and conceptual and egoistic interpretations that are negative about the feeling and sensations of those emotions. Even diagnosis, even if it's a diagnosis. Say you've got such and such diagnosis that's attributed to these emotions that Western world doesn't even understand. Western medicine doesn't understand. God bless Western medicine. Not trying to poo-poo it. But it misses how emotions get trapped in the body and even into specific organs. Different emotions get trapped into different organs. And until they're processed, they influence and affect the energetic flow and quality of health within that organ and meridian. So surrendering is a piece of learning to process it and heal those emotions. Another way we can do it is to recontextualize it, which means when that emotion comes up and we do have a negative egoistic interpretation of it, we change our mind about it. Not only do we change our mind about it, we step into the energy of what we are changing our mind to. For example, if you're ever feeling weak because of a health condition, change your thoughts from being weak to I am strong, but step into it. Step into the energy of it. Pretend as though you're strong. Act as though you're strong. Just as my friend in the previous, I don't know if it'll be posted in the previous, but in another video said he feels like he's faking it. You almost have to fake it in this manner to change the ego's opinion about it. So you can't look at something negative. You can't look at a negative emotion with a negative mindset and heal it, because what you're actually doing is reaffirming it and creating more of that energy. A sad thought creates sadness. A happy thought creates happiness. A difficult emotion thought creates a difficult emotion. And when you're working to heal that difficult emotion, if you again think it's a difficult emotion, you've just reaffirmed it. You've just replanted the seed. You've just solidified it even more, and you've given more subtle, energetic thought energy to it, so that it would increase. It's important that you understand that's the wrong way to heal emotions. That actually is what's creating all of these, all of the resistance and the suppression. That's what's creating the sensations of this emotion to be larger and more intense, because we're using our mind in a negative manner to look at something that was negatively created in the first place, that is only there because of our negative interpretation, egoistic interpretation in the first place. That's the source. That's the root cause of that emotion. So we can't look at it in the same manner and expect it to improve. We'd be cultivating more difficult emotion if we were to look at it with a mindset and interpretation of difficulty or negativity. Another way to process these emotions is to use the physicality to influence what's going on. Because when we're stressed in the body, consider this, examine this for yourself. When you have stress in your body, do you become so relaxed? Or do you become very tight, almost vigilant, on guard? When you have stress in the body, you become tight and tense, right? So there's methods such as the one that I recommend, called shaking the tree in Qigong. Shaking the tree in Qigong. Qigong spelled Qigong. And what this does is it allows us to shake the flesh and physicality in our body to loosen up the tension so that the energy can flow better. That's a way of processing pent up energy. And when we have this emotional baggage that's suppressed in us, we're trying to, in order to process it, these are the ways to do it. These are some of the ways to do it. So just to shake out a tense body part, shake it. And you might actually feel, have a memory come to mind as you're shaking it up, because that emotion is stored there due to a situation that you've experienced. So you might remember. remember? You might remember the thought that instigated that emotion. And had you processed that emotion when it occurred, it wouldn't be stuck in the body. But in our current Western culture where I live, much emotional expression isn't encouraged. People aren't supposed to show their feelings. It's kind of, we've been fooled to think it's a sign of weakness, or it's actually a demonstration of us being aware of what's going on within us, and promotes our health, promotes energetic flow, because otherwise we create all this tension in our energy body, as well as physicality, because the energy isn't flowing. It's become stagnant. We've locked it in place. It came up to be experienced, and we've denied the experience of it. So now it's sitting there waiting for us. How many of you have actually considered emotion to be such? Because that's what it is. It arises in order to be experienced. And when we deny the experience, it waits in our body for us, creating tension, creating other thought forms like it, because it hasn't been processed, so it's still there influencing the mind, which is what I mentioned in a previous video regarding manifestation, how our emotions and unprocessed emotions are affecting our moment-to-moment mind, because they're still there influencing. They're still waiting to be processed. They're still waiting to be integrated, but we're suppressing them. So we're not expressing them externally, and we think we're doing great because the world isn't seeing how much muck we have going on inside. But our experience does not lie to us. If we were at complete peace, if you are at complete peace, complete joy most of the time, and you don't have a whole lot of tension in you, and you don't have little things aren't making you angry, you're not irritable and stuff like that, you're doing great. You're doing great in this respect. But I'm curious to see how many of you are like that, because that's not the common occurrence in this Western disconnected world. We're so out of touch with ourselves because we're so stimulated and distracted away from paying attention. Nature itself is intelligent. Sick people would know how to get themselves well if they would just stop distracting themselves from having all the external stimulation, because we understand these things. And if we get still enough, Spirit will tell us. You know what I mean? Spirit will give us the revelation. And the final one that I'll mention in this audio is feeling the actual sensation of the emotion. Now, every emotion comes with a sensation, and once you are aware of this to an extent in practice, when you're really happy, when you're really sad, when you're really angry, and start looking to the body for the sensations that these emotions have created, you'll start to recognize, where does anger feel in my body? Where does happiness feel in my body? Where does grief feel in my body? And when you feel that feeling, there's a key there, there's a little breadcrumb. When you feel the feeling, you process it. Those emotions only have so much energy. And once you feel it, the energy begins resolving and integrating. Now here's the thing. What do you think would happen if, when you're feeling those feelings, you have a negative mindset? If a sad thought creates sadness, a negative mindset will create negativity. And if you're already working on a negative emotion, trying to process it, do you see how looking at that feeling with a negative mindset is adding fuel to the fire? It's adding more energy and intensity to that emotion that you may have been intending to resolve and integrate. So you have to be watchful that your mind you're not allowing and tolerating a negative response. You can have a negative response this quick. You can start feeling and go, oh my God, that's scary. You can have it that quick, and it's not a big deal, because you can surrender it right after that and then start to resolve it. So what I'm trying to point out is you can have an initial response of negativity. That's fine. And that will have added a little bit to it. That will have added a little bit of energy. But as soon as you start surrendering it, now you're resolving it. So I'm throwing that in there so we don't have an initial negative reaction and become so scared that we're creating worse. Because when you're first beginning, that's natural. And sometimes I find for myself even now, when I have that first initial reaction of negativity, that's my reminder. That's a reminder to say, okay, surrender. Surrender and feel, or surrender. And so as you're feeling these sensations of the emotions, you're using what's considered your felt sense. And you're just remaining feeling as deeply as you can, feel, not in a forced manner. You're just allowing it to express itself, and you're feeling the experience of it. And you'll watch how it shifts in your body. It may produce gas, it may produce a burp, it may produce a sneeze, it may produce a cough, it may produce tears in your eyes, it may produce muscle spasms, or that's just energy that was locked up, now integrated and beginning to flow. What I like to do when I'm doing this, though, when I'm feeling these energies, is I actually use my mind in conjunction with a positive mindset. So I'm actually bringing a high vibration mentally along with while I'm feeling the emotion, the sensations of the emotion. And the two most recommended that I've heard and that I can validate work for myself are thank you and I love you. And you don't have to be saying thank you and I love you to this sensation, though you can. And why not? It's conducive to healing. It helps healing. It's not resistance. It's not negative. So it's not putting the brakes on it, and it's not contributing to more fuel to the fire of that emotion. And the reason I like the gratitude energy, and when you say it, you don't just say it, you want to try and step into the feeling of what gratitude feels like and what love feels like. You are embodying it. The reason I've chosen those two is because those two alone, gratitude and love, are used by so many healing, natural healing, energetic healing modalities because they recognize how it transmutes negative energy. It changes the vibration of negative energy to be pulled up to a higher vibration. And notice when you have these uncomfortable, Spirit just brought this up. Neat. I'd never considered this before, but I guess it's pretty apparent. Notice when you're having those emotions that are suppressed that you might interpret as uncomfortable or difficult. Notice how in your mind there is no sense of love and there's no sense of gratitude. So notice how the problem is devoid of gratitude and the problem is devoid of love. And now you're changing your mind about it. And your mind precedes experience, does it not? From how well you understand this stuff, you'll get there if you're not already there. If you commit to these understandings and examine and apply. Love's the way out. Love is the way out. Gratitude is the way out. That's alignment. That's alignment. And these suppressed emotions are expressions of misalignment. So I'll end it there. I'll thank Spirit on that one. There were some pretty neat revelations that came through. Bless you, my friend. We'll talk soon.